Hi, everybody. My name is Scott. I'm one of your hosts today.
And I'm Andy. Welcome to Tea and Timbits podcast.
The global perspectives on business development to help you prosper. Good to chat with you today, Andy. We are going to talk about the power of curiosity. We thought that would be something that we would want to share with our listeners and was relevant to some of the experiences and conversations that we have found ourselves in recently. But before we get to that, Andy, have you learned anything in the past week?
Yeah, it's. I mean, I knew you were going to ask the question. Exactly. I knew you were going to ask the question, so I came a little bit prepared. But one of the things that that has come up is that I've noticed that a lot of people with the companies that I work with, they do struggle a little bit with getting an understanding of the dynamics within their particular market and understanding the I suppose the challenges that that they could potentially face when engaging with their customers, by understanding their customers' market, by understanding what challenges their customers are facing, because of course the challenges that their customers are facing impact upon the challenges that they face in terms of helping to support those customers and bringing value to them. So for me, it really highlighted the necessity to get to understand, you know, your customer's market and your own market, and really sort of diving in a little bit deeper in that. I suppose I'd thought about it before, but because you had asked me, because you preempted me that you were going to ask me this question, I was paying a little bit more attention about what was going on this week, and this just came up, and I was like, I'm seeing this consistently.
So you're saying that
multiple businesses.
The identification there in your week was that a lot of your customers don't actually necessarily think about their customers' markets. They're thinking of their customers as a part of their own market, and they're not
Correct,
doing that
yeah.
extra hop to go, well, let me empathize with my customer and their market and their situation and that need. And the value there is tremendous if you can put yourself in the shoes of your customer, and empathize and sort of build that context into the service that you're providing.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I mean, the challenges that companies face in trying to serve their market are very dependent on the challenges that those customers face, and being able to address those challenges and understand those challenges, and understand and help those customers to understand how they can overcome those challenges as well.
Well, I think we've got a topic for a future episode here.
I think we probably have.
Fantastic. Thanks for sharing. So let's get into our topic, the power of curiosity. We were both chatting sort of in the prep for this about sort of what that meant, but we didn't get too far into it because we wanted to hit record and really make it authentic. So, I was sharing my thoughts, but what do you think curiosity is all about, and why was it important to talk to our audience about this? And I guess before we actually get into the discussion, what do you think is important for our audience to take away from our conversation that they're going to listen to?
Well, for me, curiosity is like a foundation element for salespeople to be successful, for company leaders, for salespeople, for anyone who's trying to develop their business. Curiosity, we've called the episode "The Power of Curiosity," but curiosity is a power. So not only does power have curiosity, but yeah, you know what I mean. Going off on, but essentially to me, I want the audience to understand that being curious about, coming back to what I said right at the beginning, about your customer, but also just being curious about everything, being curious about what's going on, about why your company is doing what it's doing, who your colleagues are focused on, what impact does does your product, your solution have in your world, in your customer's world? What impact does it have on other parts of the organization? What impact does it have on their business, on their success? Just being curious on that, not necessarily from the perspective of selling something or
Right.
developing a product, but just being curious, because that curiosity will create a platform from which you can build meaningful relationships and lead into potential sales if it's right. But that curiosity will allow you to understand if it is right.
Right.
So
So
for
I
me,
guess
I want people to walk away with an understanding of curiosity is key.
And and to sort of reflect on being intentionally curious.
Correct. Yeah.
And okay, so let's get into it, because I think that in my view, in my perspective here, when you hear about curiosity, it can often be a little bit disingenuous sometimes. I don't know if that's the right word, but the um, the frustration or the challenge to practicing curiosity, or the negative sort of connotation that may come with it, is that you just sort of end up in an academic area, that you're just asking questions for the sake of it. And I think that I've seen that happen as well, where somebody thinks like, they just spend so much time asking and not enough time sort of acting upon those results. So I think it's important to make sure that when you're being curious, it's in the context of the outcome that you are working towards, and
And that it's genuine. I think that's the
genuine.
key.
Right.
I think you need to have that, exactly as you said there. If you're just reading off a list of questions, if you're just being curious because your manager has told you need to be curious, and you've listened to this podcast and you go, oh, I need to be curious, and so I need to be curious about my customer, I need to be curious about these things. If you're just doing it for the sake of it, then that's fine. But you've got to be interested. You've got to be interested in the answers that you hear. You've
So
got to be genuinely curious.
what do you do when you're not interested? So you've been tasked with a client or a business challenge, and it's just not exciting you.
Hmm. Well, isn't that a sign that maybe it's not the right fit?
Yeah, yeah, maybe. But I mean, sometimes you're stuck in that situation anyway.
I think I think it's a valid point. I mean, there are times when we're off our game. When we're
Right.
tired, when we've it's the seventh meeting of the day or whatever, and it's just been a crazy day, and you just worn out, and you're just like, oh, so many questions today, and I can't think about this anymore. And you get to that point where maybe you're just like, yeah, okay, yeah, you do business, and we
Right.
sell a product, great, do you want to buy it, kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's horrible, but then that's unprofessional. And I think you need to take a self-reflection when you get to that point. If you feel that you're not genuinely curious in those circumstances, then I think the best thing to do is actually to politely, tell the
Take a
prospect,
break.
tell the person that
Yeah.
I'm really sorry. I really want to learn about your business. I really want to know a lot about it. But right now I've had a really busy day, really hectic. Could we possibly reschedule? Because
Right.
I think the curious element is something that adds a lot of value
Mhm.
to a customer, a prospect, a colleague. If you're curious in them, you are showing an interest in them, and it makes them feel special, but it also forces them to reflect on their own business, on their own lives, on their own situation, and think about it maybe from a perspective that they didn't necessarily do before. But if you take away that curiosity, you lose that, and they lose that, and nobody really benefits from those discussions. So I think it is important that if you don't have that genuine curiosity, that you're prepared to walk away
Yeah.
in a polite
I,
way.
I I think, yeah, and that's not necessarily permanently, right? But just to
No, no,
just to reflect on the fact that, like, wait a minute, my head's not in the game right
no.
now, and I'm just kind of doing without thinking, or doing without analyzing, or doing without being effectively critical. And I'm going to be a better solution provider, consultant, advisor, you know, um, vendor, service provider, if I can come back at this with new energy.
Yeah.
um, I think it's so important, though, to make sure that you are in a space and creating a space where you're empowered to ask the right questions and
Mm.
really uncover the detail and remove as much uncertainty as you can. Have you got any examples or stories or reflections on when this has really been effective in some of your interactions?
Yeah, I'd say one of the things that I see very effective with companies that I work with, and with the sales teams that I work with is when the sales teams themselves, they they don't just go out there and start attending the meetings. They may have someone else who set those meetings up for them. They may be setting them up themselves. If they're setting them up themselves, it's a little bit different. But when they're preparing for those meetings, they are actually preparing for those meetings. They're not just, creating a PowerPoint slide, and multiple pages about their products. What they're doing is they're taking the time and being curious about the company they're going to go and meet.
Yeah.
And they are doing research that, so the curiosity begins before you meet your person. The curiosity begins in that company you're going to meet. Why am I meeting with this company? What is it about this company that is relevant for us, or could potentially be relevant for us? What's going on in
Or
their
relevant for
world
them
at
and
the
their
moment?
customers. Yeah.
Correct. Yeah, exactly. What's going on in their world at the moment? What are the challenges they're facing? What are the thing? What are their have they been in the news recently? Has someone else in their industry been in the news? What are their competitors doing at the moment? But that genuine curiosity starts at the very beginning, because that's when you can start to create value when you go into the meeting, by being
Right.
curious. I've seen this about your company. I've seen this about your industry. I've seen this about your competitors. How are those things affecting you and your business?
Yeah.
And just starting out there is where real genuine conversations begin.
And I want to just add that I think that this is like any other muscle skill that you might have developed over time, which is you need to practice it.
Mm,
Some people are genuinely curious. Some people are good question askers and explorers, but I don't think that knowing the right questions to ask and when to ask them is necessarily something that just comes intuitively. I think that knowing what to ask, when to ask it, how deep to go comes from practice.
mhm,
And it is something that, internally with my team, we actually practice. So we will have curiosity sessions. We will have conversations. We'll have meetings internally, and they're called curiosity sessions. And I'll say, what sort of moment of curiosity can you share from the past month, or whatever the frequency has been? What was a moment where your curiosity let you down? What was a moment when it uncovered something that was advantageous to advancing the project? And we get into some really great conversations that people can share from those little, almost moments that are otherwise sometimes innocuous, that uncovered some real aha moment. And I would suggest that that's something to consider doing, is getting together with your team, or even just one other person, and saying, let's just think about and reflect on when curiosity was helpful, when we wished we had been more curious, and what kind of that may or may not have led to.
mhm. That sounds really valuable. Really valuable sessions. How often do you do those?
They're not done with much regularity. I kind of work them into some of the other team meetings from time to time. I used to do them a little bit more rigorously, but it's the kind of thing that I feel has to be employed at the right moment. So I'll work them into to team meetings on the agenda once every month or a quarter, or if we have a light agenda, sometimes it might be something to say, hey, let's do a curiosity session and reflect on that. So I've tried different things, and to be honest, I think the team likes it when it's a little bit more spontaneous and less routine.
No, no, that's really good, because I think one of the biggest challenges in companies, and I don't want to get too far off topic, but it is sales meetings, and sales meetings tend to be very dull. I mean, they tend to very often just be about, looking back, who achieved what, and what's the status of this particular order. Are you going to get it this week? And it doesn't go anywhere. It doesn't energize the team. And I think it's so important that you have these sessions. And yes, I mean, as you say,
Right.
if you do them too regularly, they become dull, they become routine, and people don't pay attention. But that's the problem with most of the sales meetings that most companies have, is that they are routine, they are
Yep.
boring, they are dull. A sales meeting should inspire the team. It
Yeah.
should motivate the team. It should
Oh,
give them the energy, the skills, and the energy to go out there and be successful. And it should be a safe space where they can share the challenges, where they can talk about things, and they can share successes as well.
I've seen this done so disingenuously before. Like, I've been in meetings where I'm being sold to, and the salesperson is like putting on that overly enthusiastic face and asking some icebreaker question to show how inquisitive they are. And I'm like, really, really, dude? So you made the point off the top. Like, it's got to be genuine and
Yeah.
authentic. Don't be cheesy and schmarmy about all of this, or it won't work.
No, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Awesome. Great chat. Love it. Hopefully everybody took something away from that. We look forward to chatting with you again on our next episode. If you want to get in touch with us, you can find us on LinkedIn, or you can email us podcast@tandtimbits.com. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks so much, Scott. It's been a pleasure. Bye.